Queridos amigos, vamos a utilizar para esta parte de la plática con
Dear friends, we are going to do some asanas during this conversation with the Master Jose Michan. The Master has invited me to remember the times in which we used to practice yoga, so you are going to see some images of how the yoga is done correctly by a teacher and how a disciple has not been able to master the yoga for lack of constancy. I do my asanas once in a while.
muy de vez en cuando.
While practicing yoga, my friends used to tell me, how boring, and all your body hurts from placing yourself in a very uncomfortable position. So in what way yoga helps you? Master, it will be very interesting for you to talk about the beneficial effects of the yoga asanas and what this develops in our physical, emotional, and mental bodies.
Nuestro cuerpo emocional y nuestro cuerpo mental.
El yoga es una disciplina muy antigua.
Yoga is a very ancient discipline. It comes from the Sanskrit word yug, which means union. Union of the more subtle part of the individual with the more subtle part of the universe.
Existen 84
There are 84,000 postures that the physical body can adopt,
al número
which correspond to the number of animal species that exist on the planet. You can observe that the majority of postures in yoga have names of animals or names of physical phenomena, as the lightning posture, eagle posture, lion posture, cobra posture, and so on. Precisely, the yoga helps to control the animal part of our being, helps to control our instincts, and to stimulate the internal secretional glands. When we apply pressure to a determined part of our body after we finish the position, there arrives a great amount of blood to that particular area. This creates stimulation in this area, and when it is done in a particular chakra, which is connected to a gland, this is going to produce a particular effect in the behavior of the individual. In this manner, if I work with the thyroid gland, if I work with the pancreas, if I work with the sexual glands, and if I work with the thymus gland, it is going to generate a different influence. In this way, when we practice a yoga posture that is accompanied with a rhythmic breathing, with an empty stomach, and with a particular mental attitude, the physical exercise that is performed during the moment of practicing the asana helps the individual to develop not only musculature, so the muscle is not tense, but also increases the blood circulation to that particular part of the body, and the corresponding gland that has a specific function begins to work better.
esa glándula que tiene una función específica.
When somebody says, I have to control a state of sadness, or I have to control a state of violence, these emotional and mental states are intimately related to the correct functioning of the internal secretional glands, and the yoga postures help us to control these emotional and mental states.
Controlar esos estados emocionales.
When one does a headstand, what effect does this have on the brain?
Trabajo, ¿qué efecto hace sobre el cerebro? Digo, yo lo sé, pero teniendo al maestro para que voy a dar explicaciones.
When one does a headstand and one already has practiced a discipline, and if one has eliminated the alcohol, if one has eliminated the coffee and the drugs from the organism, there is no risk involved. However, when the individual has not yet developed a discipline in his life and he does a headstand, this is risky, not because it is difficult doing the posture, but because the effects that this position produces. If the amount of blood that flows to the brain is toxic because the organism has toxicity, then this can be harmful to the brain. So this position can have a negative effect. If this is the case, instead of doing a headstand, we can do a shoulder stand, leaving our head on the floor. Doing a headstand increases the blood flow to the brain. If we are going to study or if we are going to read and the brain is well irrigated with blood, this is going to help us to concentrate better. If a student, instead of drinking coffee or taking an aspirin or avoid going without sleep, chooses to practice half a lotus posture with an empty stomach and an erect spinal cord rather than sit on a chair, and for 5 or 10 minutes increases the blood flow to his brain what is going to take him to learn in 7 hours. He is going to learn this in 1 hour instead because his brain is going to be clear. An elder can also practice the same thing and increase their blood flow to his brain so he will not lose his memory and have always a lucid and clear mind. In other words, the blood flow or circulation generated by the heart is not enough to fully irrigate the brain, and an additional charge of blood is needed coming directly from the legs. Usually, we spend 16 hours standing on our feet, and when for 5 or 10 minutes we invert ourselves, we help the heart to pump blood to the brain by emptying our legs, and this, as a result, produces a great stimulation in our brain. Does this need to be practiced with a teacher? It is recommended to practice yoga with a teacher. It is not recommended to use books which show the posture, since we can hurt ourselves if we make a mistake. That is correct. Yoga is a double-edged sword, since yoga can be very beneficial, and it is not recommended to be practiced through books nor booklets, but instead yoga needs to be practiced with an individual who has experience. There are many yoga centers in Mexico, and for those individuals who want to learn yoga, they can begin attending a great Universal Brotherhood center. Of course, Mexico has become a great seed source. Mexico is one of the countries where more instructors of yoga have been prepared, and Mexico has become one of the main countries which exports instructors and teachers of yoga. In other words, you just have to find a great Universal Brotherhood center so you can go and learn yoga there. That is correct. Mexico is one of the countries that has yoga centers in most of the states, and in many of the towns there's an institute of the great Universal Brotherhood that provides these types of disciplines. Again, I am very grateful for providing this knowledge, which I believe will be of great use for our public, because the great mental anguish of our present time is how to find tranquility, serenity, and how to find the union of the family. As the Master Jose Michan has explained this in a simple way, how can we accomplish this? By putting into practice these recommendations, since if we just listen but do not practice anything, this knowledge cannot be learned. Thank you very much, Master. Continue your path, and I hope that very soon we can meet each other again so we can have another interesting conversation such as the one that we just had on Siempre and Domingo. Raul, I would like to thank you publicly and congratulate you for the tasks that you are performing, because these kinds of topics exposed to the youth in our society are very beneficial. Since 20 years ago, I have been talking to you about this, and not only in Mexico, these disciplines have expanded in spite of the fact that Mexico has become the headquarters, but now in all the American continent and in a great part of Europe, the great Universal Brotherhood has also expanded. These contributions through the media that you do allow this message to be broadcasted with a great efficiency, and the public acknowledgement of a disciple by a teacher or vice versa has a great significance. So my dear disciple, Raul, congratulations for what you are doing. Thank you very much. It is an honor for me. Congratulations.
Así es que, mi querido discípulo Raúl, felicidades por lo que estás haciendo.
Muchas gracias, me honra mucho. Su felicitación a una de más amigos.